Not like that.
It's now very settled and very behind and really sneaky.
It's definitely a death by 1,000 cuts. It's those little microaggressions.
A bunch of expressions and faces. Because I read the book whenever I'm on the train, and I'll look at someone, they just look at you like, whoa, you can actually read a book.
If you go to a shop and you want to pick something and somebody is, retreat and thinks, oh, I'm beside somebody who is not my car.
I got on the bus and the seat was by the window. So I asked the gentleman, can I sit down there? Are you gonna move or can I squish in? So he let me squish in, I sit down and he sat down and he goes, oh, I hate sitting next to them, and gets up and goes.
People who would look at me and think that I don't belong here, even though I was born here and I grew up here.
You black monkey, like you're ruining this country, mate.
You would be wondering, why would somebody who doesn't know me feel this way about me?
As a black woman, I have to be aware of my presence in every single facet of society that's dominated by people that don't look like me. I get on the train and I always have to script myself very silently on how I present myself. I should automatically make myself look small so that I don't incite fear in them.
It feels like you're outside a box, and it feels like you should hate yourself.
Dehumanizing, because you can never change your skin.
I'm in this beautiful circle, you can't be in it. They're also projecting out that you should be ashamed of yourself.
I think it's probably one of the worst things for people to experience.
Wherever you are, and welcome to Talk to Sahhara. So today I have a fun show planned for us. I'll be talking to some amazing guests, and I also have a subject that is very important and close to my heart because my Aussie mom lives in Australia and is someone I love very much, and I have very close friends that live in Australia. So today I'll be talking to one of those close friends, and her name is Miss Catalina. I absolutely adore her. Yes, I call her the Duchess of all Duchesses and the Queen of all Queens. A strong activist and someone that is always for social justice. So I think it will be interesting to pick her brain. So you can join the conversation by calling me on WhatsApp or even leaving your comments below this video, and I would gladly include you into the conversation. So the subject we'll be talking about today is transphobia, discrimination, and racism in Australia. It will be interesting to hear her point of view. So yes, without further ado, here is Miss Catalina. Thank you so much for coming on. Thank you.
My pleasure. Thank you for having me. It's an honor.
So yes, so today I wanted to talk to you about, I've known you for a while. But of course we've never met because you live in Australia. But do you remember when we first met? I wanted to ask how how did we first meet? Do you remember online?
I do remember. I remember like it was yesterday. It was like, because I was following your other page, the Transvalid. And then someone made a comment about a post that you made, and we were correcting you. I can't remember what it was. It was something to do with some trans history in Australia. We said no.
Yeah.
I mean, we weren't being rude. We were just saying no. It was actually no. We were being rude. Actually, I was being rude, and you were so polite. You were like, "I'm sorry, blah blah blah," and I thought, oh, she's lovely.
Oh.
then we started following, and I started following, and I'm like, I love this girl. She's so nice. Maybe I should be.
I think my first notice of you properly, because so on Transvalid, I only see you leaving comments and leaving like really fiery comments, especially when it comes to race and discrimination. You don't hold back. And I was like, I need to get Catalina on this show because I need to have a conversation with you. And I tried to send you messages, but somehow we missed that message. So yes, let's talk about so the first thing I wanted to talk to you about is the racism in Australia and transphobia in Australia. But I'm going to start with the racism first, then we'll move to transphobia.
A Geelong GP verbally abused by a woman in Hamlin Heights is the latest victim of a rise in COVID-related racist attacks. Dr. Ern Chang says he's speaking out on behalf of the many Asian Australians who've copped the same hostility. Stephanie Anderson met him.
Dr. Ern Chang was picking up takeaway meals when a total stranger gave him a piece of her mind.
This woman just approached me on the street and said, look, you have no right to be here. Go home while you're on the street and F off.
The GP is convinced the racist slur was fueled by COVID-19 tensions and the virus's connection to China. He was too shocked to respond on the street, but now he's speaking out on social media.
I thought about my friends and my patients who've gone through similar things. I thought, no, I've got a voice. Let's make it heard.
There's simply no place for that sort of behaviour in our state.
There have been defaced flags, public put-downs.
You call me Corona, you call me China.
And a campaign to stop the vilification of hospital staff, all since the pandemic started.
The COVID-19 situation and the discourse around it has given those actions legitimacy. People do feel it's all right to do that.
Last night, Jakara Brigham was released on bail after handing herself in over a violent attack on 2 students in Elizabeth Street. Police allege she referenced coronavirus and yelled, "Go back to China."
Do you have anything to say?
Wasn't race related at all.
The Asian Australian Alliance has been collecting data for the past 18 days and has received 234 reports of racial attacks related to COVID-19 from across the country. 64 of those incidents happened here in Victoria, with racial slurs and verbal threats the most common issues. Dr. Chang hasn't pushed his case with police, but he's hopeful sharing his story will bring a kinder perspective to the streets.
It's not an Asian disease, it's an international problem. We are all in this together.
So, I see it in the news all the time. We have many Africans complaining, especially Africans that live in Australia and that were born there, or immigrants that be having issues. I want to hear your point of view on racism in general in Australia, please.
Yeah, so racism, it's like, it's quite subtle, but it's strong. So it's there. Like, I think the past 10 years, it's become more, it's, people have been more vocal. And I think because people of colour are finding their voices, they're like, I found my voice, I'm going to use it here. So therefore, the white people have decided, this is too much for them. Yeah. So they'll try and, because we're too outspoken.
I think that is quite common with most parts of the world, especially in the UK and in America as well. When you call out racist people, the general public gets angry because they assume that you are focusing on them. Or when you call out a racist white person, it means that you are calling all white people racist, which is not the point. I don't understand why all white people get angry when we are talking about the racist among them, not those of them who are allies. I think people need to stop conflating the two. There are racist people and there are white people who are not racist, who are allies and support the fight that we're fighting, who are our friends and family members. So that distinction needs to be made. And unfortunately, most white media, especially the ones run by Rupert Murdoch, often just push it all together and in order to make people angry and get reaction from people.
No, that's right. And like you were saying, when we call out white people, maybe a certain person, then other white people sort of jump in and get a defensive when it has nothing to do with them. So, but when I see that, when I see them get defensive, it means that maybe this is some kind of guilt that they've had, as maybe they've been racist in the past, or maybe they have some kind of racist thoughts. That's how I see it when they start getting defensive when they shouldn't.
It's always baffled me because I see people getting chips on their shoulder because when you're trying to educate them on what is happening, especially we are in the position to actually explain what racism is, they are not in the position. So they won't understand when something is being racist. Like I was watching a video earlier when I was doing a research about this on YouTube, and all those right-wing media in your country were going on about, oh, is Australia racist? Oh, Australia is so racist, it's investing $30 billion on Aboriginal people. You know, the headline is very condescending and very disrespectful. I know you have a lot of connection with the Tiwi girls. Tiwi girls being, could you explain, the sister girls, could you explain a bit about their history, please, and how racism affects them?
So for Aboriginal people in general, I mean, you just have to be. You can be white passing, be Aboriginal, and still be discriminated. Just the fact that you say that you're Aboriginal, already going to be discriminated. If you've got the darker the skin, darker your skin is, the more racism you're going to receive. So it just gets worse and worse and worse. In Australia, there's racism against Aboriginal people because they believe that there's this myth, there's this thing going on where people are telling each other that Aboriginal people don't want to work, they depend on the dole, all this kind of stuff, but they only say Aboriginal people. They don't say any other nationality. They just say Aboriginal. This is what I was told when I first came to Australia when I was 16. And I remember having an argument with one of my flatmates when she told me. And I just said, no, that's not true. I mean, I didn't know the facts, but I knew that wasn't true. People just discriminating them just because they have this thing that they think that Aboriginal people don't have got nothing to contribute to our country, which they do.
That is very sad that people feel that way, and we are all human beings. We have the same blood running in our veins. Saying that because of the color of your skin, you're not good enough or you're not worthy of having the same equality, it makes me very sad. And I think this is why I find your fight for social justice and always speaking out and calling out all these people online makes me feel very good, because we have to keep fighting.
I have no fear. I'm not trying to. I'm not attached, or I don't line myself to anything, so I've got nothing to lose. So the more outspoken I am, I don't really care, because I notice that a lot of people, even around me, don't want to say something.
Yeah.
So they messages and then say, "Did you see this?" So they want me to speak, because I'm fine, because they're attached to an organisation, or they've got an image and all this kind of stuff. So they'll send me the message. That's why some of the stuff that you see is brought to my attention, and I'm saying, I'll say it, because I don't really care. Like, I'm not trying to be I'm not trying to be the spokesperson of our community or any community. I'm going to speak true.
Yeah, but you are inadvertently a spokesperson for the community, because you are someone who is very important for the community, as far as I'm concerned, from what I see, and your fight and your effort for the community, especially for trans people. And I see you promoting the sister girls a lot, and I see you, always wanting to do something when it comes to visibility for our community. And this brings me to the Trans Pride March in Melbourne. So what inspired you to start that?
That Trans Pride March in Melbourne was something that I actually wanted to do many years ago. I think 5 or 7 years ago. It was the thought, and then I thought, I want to do it. But then I actually was going to do it, but I was told that, there's too much. And it was going to be on Transgender Remembrance Day. Okay. But everyone was telling me that there's too much focus on that. And there was. Like, do something that celebrates, and I didn't want to. And I said, well, there's to me, I thought the opposite. I thought, well, there's a lot. I mean, there's enough. So I stopped, and then only just a few years ago, I decided to, get back on and do my research. Where can I hold it? And so when I contacted Trans Sisters United, Rebecca and Sasha, to link up to start this march, they did want to know, why we're doing this. And I said, well, because we need it, because we're doing it for us. We're doing it for everyone. We're doing it for all the sisters around the world. It's not just, because we just want to do a march.
Yeah.
It's really, standing in solidarity with all our trans sisters around the country and around the world. And we need to take up the opportunity now, because our community is constantly under attack.
Yeah.
So if you drop the ball, people are going to come and then take advantage of it, and then, then all our rights are gone. I thought, do it now. I'm not going to wait. I've been dying to do this for 7 years. That was that. But then the other part for that was trying to get, trans people of colour included.
Yeah, no, I agree. Pride should be inclusive. And you go around the world and it's not that inclusive. And it's just one-sided of their acronym, or two-sided of the acronym, which I think is not fair. And this is why it's very important to still keep having trans pride, because even people in the LGBT community or LGB community are not very well educated on what it means to be trans. And this is why using our voice to educate them is super, super important. And this also brings me to another question about TERFs. For those of you who don't know what TERFs are, T is an acronym, TERFS. Well, S for the plural, but TERF, which is T for Trans Exclusionary Radical Feminists or Trans Exclusionary Radical Feminism. There are people who, they hate that word TERF, but unfortunately, we have to call them that because that is what they call themselves anyway. So I don't understand why they get very angst and angry when we call them that. So, right? What is their influence like in Australia? I'm curious to know.
It's here, but it's not. It actually doesn't have a strong voice, and usually it's like one or two people.
Okay.
So there's not. They're there. I mean, there is a group of them, and there is a big, large group, but they don't really have much of a strong voice. But they're everywhere. Like they can be among your friends. They can be your friends, be hidden. They just won't say anything.
Well, in the UK and America, they are very loud. They're a small, tiny group of people. And they're very loud because they have this mechanism where they are bankrolled and financially supported by right-wing media, Republican Party in America, and anti-LGBT organizations like all those evangelical Christians who hate LGBT people. So they are funded by that. And in the UK, their voices are amplified. Even though they're a small, tiny minority, their voices are heavily amplified. Because I have friends who are lesbians and they don't agree with that. I have friends who are feminists, female feminists, cis women, who say they don't believe in segregation of womanhood by saying that trans women are not women. They hate that. So TERFs, their mantra is trans women are not women, and therefore should not be included, and trans men are not valid because they maybe have been molested when they were kids. That's why they are acting like men. So their argument is so patriarchal, and they also accuse trans women of being portraying an image of patriarchy, and they are the ones doing the same thing. They hate. So yeah, they're very contradictory, and I don't take them seriously. So you're totally right.
Nothing they talk about or preach about is even factual. Like it's all just delusion, made up stories.
Yeah.
Just really fairy. It's like so many people will just fall into that and believe what they say when none of it is even true.
Yeah.
It's like,
so it brings me back to your Prime Minister, and the Australian newspaper, and also a media organization owned by Rupert Murdoch. I don't know why, even in the UK here, he has a stronghold into our political system. Same with America. He owns Fox News. He owns a part of Sky News here in the UK. The man has such, I don't understand why one single person has such a monopoly on what we hear in media, and they brainwash people against us, because especially when they're writing stories always about trans people, because they know that with trans people they will always rile the public and make the public angry and make the public want to demonize us, and by doing so it makes them money when people click and comment on their websites. So I wanted to ask you about that, because the Australian is always running a furious angry campaign against trans people in the UK, and also particularly in Australia, especially when it comes to young trans kids and gender identity recognition in your country, especially your Prime Minister being very transphobic and the Australian newspaper being very transphobic. Can you elaborate on that, please?
Yeah, so, he's very problematic, and I think for our community here, we try to ignore what he's saying and concentrate on other things that we can rely on for support. We don't really pay too much attention to him, but sometimes you can't. Sometimes it's hard because everybody's posting about him, but the majority of Australia doesn't even like him anyways.
How are you feeling with the lockdown and with the coronavirus? How are you?
Yes, so, it hasn't really affected me that much. Okay.
That's good.
At all. As I'm a person who stays home anyways.
Yeah.
So the isolation is quite good for me. Sometimes when I wake up and I'm like, I want to go and sit in a cafe, or even when I forget I can't sit down. That's the only, but, that's my experience.
That's good. For me, I am a recluse and I don't go out that much either. So I think trans people are prepared for the lockdown. Yeah, we are prepared for the lockdown. We are used to it. We know how to do isolation like no other. So I think the isolation is easy for us.
And you're right. With being trans, because at some point you had to isolate so you can kind of like find out and discover who you are, or it's part of the transition as well.
Yeah.
You isolate yourself.
Let me bring in Melbourne Trans Pride again, and I want to find out, what is your vision for the Melbourne Trans Pride when the lockdown it's over? Have you talked about when it's going to be and what you hope for it to be? And are you worried that maybe many people may not turn up because of the coronavirus?
Yeah. I've already thought about that. And I mean, there are people saying, will you restart, sometime maybe at the end of the year? And I'm like, nah, because people are not going to turn up. The numbers that I had before, it's too soon. So I'm leaving it till next year. Because there is pressure for me to go ahead and do it and forget about the numbers. If people can't make it, they can't make it.
Yeah.
But that just means that those people who don't want to come because, they just feel unsafe are going to miss out.
Yeah.
So that's why I want to leave it till next year. But I have to say this, with the Trans Pride March, there's two parts to it, because there's the speaking part, which is where people get to speak whatever they want to speak about, where they're sad. I mean, there was pressure on me where I had to where people were telling me to tell the speakers, don't speak on anything sad, speak things positive. I can't dictate.
No, you can't.
Yeah, I've got to give them that freedom to say whatever they want to say. I mean, I don't care if they just want to go up there and promote their own brand, whatever that brand is, or they want to talk about losing someone. That's really up to them. That speaking part. And then at the end of the actual march is the concert. So the and it's actually a 4-hour concert.
Oh wow! That's
And
cool.
we've, because how it was meant to be, together, like the singing and the performance and the speaking part, but we couldn't do it that way. So I said, I'll separate it. We'll have a concert, a small one, but then it was growing bigger and bigger, bigger. So that part is the celebration. So you know, you don't start something because it's going to be. I know that with me speaking to some of the speakers, there's a lot of sensitive stuff they're going to be talking about.
Yeah.
So it's going to be quite heavy. So with the concert, at the end, it's just to uplift. So, but so I did tell the performers, because, you know, it's quite heavy at the beginning, can you do something that's more uplifting, and, you know, more inspiring, that kind of stuff, so we could all have fun. Yeah, so.
I totally understand. And the original Pride March was started in anger. It was a protest, not a celebration, because they call it Gay Pride, because gay means happy and stuff like that. They assume that you have to be happy all the time. Not all gay people are happy all the time. I think it's just a stereotype. And also, the Pride March is to put wrong right and to educate people and to call people out. And by all means, people can speak what they want to speak about. I think it's totally allowed. And that's a good thing.
I wanted to give everybody, which I didn't mention before, it was passing the mic to people in our community that we don't often hear and see, because, I mean, look, people writing me emails, telling me and sending me messages saying, oh, why don't you get so-and-so and so-and-so on there? Why don't you, one person even said, why don't you get someone from the US? And so I don't want to use people who we already know here in Australia, who already have have already been invited here left and right and centre, when we've got people where I need to elevate their voice. They've got something to offer as well. So all the speakers are people that we don't often hear. The performers are the same thing. Not often that we hear these performers. And plus the inclusion part, the inclusion of all different, like it's not just all people of colour, it's majority is people of colour. Make sure that, you know, the First Nations people own a seat at the table, not just be invited or get but they own a seat at the table. That was really important for me. So
I wanted to ask you, is there any other thing you want us to talk about, like a subject that is close to your heart, or any information you would like my audience or would like to educate my audience about that they may not know about Australia and trans people?
Well, I could say that Australia, the trans community here, is very similar to the UK.
Okay.
We're fine, we're okay. Yes, we have our own, we've got our discrimination and all this other stuff, but it's not a lot. But when there is, it's quite big, it's quite damaging. Like, you know, with our Prime Minister, like we were fine, we were cool, we were getting by, and then he comes along and says, and I can't remember what he said, but it was quite damaging to our youth, and our young ones were really affected. They were all, you know, getting upset.
He was rejecting the inclusion of young trans kids getting their ID card and socially transitioning. And he hated that with passion. And I think most politicians, like even Trump does this as well. Even our Prime Minister does it as well. It's a way to deflate from their ineptitude in handling situation. For example, when things are going wrong in Australia, for example, your Prime Minister started making all these comments when they had the climate change issue and him selling coal mine, still producing coal mine around the world, and how Australia is far, far behind on climate issues. Then he started attacking trans people because he knows that by attacking trans people, the media will latch onto it, there will be outrage, and it will draw attention away from his poor handling of the climate issues.
But I also have to say that here in Victoria, we, you know, trans community here, we now can change our gender on our with the gender that we identify with, and that was we were able to do that from the 1st of May.
Oh wow! That's cool.
The application forms and all that.
Yeah.
Which is great. I know Canberra. There's 2 other states that already had it from 2014, 2016. We just started in 2018.
So, what states are the most trans-friendliest in Australia?
The most friendly will have to be Sydney, because I lived there for 13 years.
Oh.
So that's equal.
I hope to visit it one day. Many people don't know this. Even I didn't know it for a while. I used to think that Sydney was the capital of Australia, but actually it's Canberra, right? So
it's a ghost town,
and it's the capital.
It is the capital. It's tiny. It's small, but Sydney is the most friendliest. It's the more accepting of trans people. Melbourne, it kind of strangely is in a way, but as long as you conform.
I see.
You have to be. You can't be non-binary.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. That it must be a nightmare for non-binary people.
Oh, it is. I mean, I have a friend who is non-binary and has chosen not to. They're non-binary. They identify as non-binary, but they basically don't want to kind of. I don't know how to put it.
Express themselves publicly.
Yeah, holding back their expressions. Because Melbourne is a little bit backwards accepting non-binary people. Trans people, they're fine, but you've got to choose. Do you want to be a man or a woman? Where in Sydney, they don't really care. You know, there's lots of parts of Sydney that are more accepting, whether you're trans or non-binary. Adelaide's the last place that for trans person, not accepted. And I have a friend who, they're a trans woman, but they're at the early stages. They just arrived in Adelaide and they were discriminated by 2 people just when they just got off the plane, and they just arrived to Australia. So that's Adelaide for you.
Yeah, that's crazy. So, well, my Aussie mom is in Sydney, and I hope to go one day because I want to visit her, like I was telling you earlier. And I want to experience a bit of Australia. But the racism thing turns me off. Perhaps
the race.
Yeah, that turns me off because I don't like countries that are like that. I like when they're a bit more inclusive and respect all. But I'm going to definitely come to see my Aussie mom, that's for sure.
If you're a visitor, it's different.
Oh, okay.
You actually live here, it's different. Like as a visitor, you'll find you won't actually notice, you won't see it. It's when you actually live here, it becomes different.
I see.
I don't know if that makes sense.
Yeah, it does. It does make sense. Because for a visitor, you are only temporary. So they won't take you too seriously. It's when you live there, you're living amongst them, then it becomes an issue.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, thank you. That's what I come from overseas, you know, and they'll say, "Oh, Australia's fine. I didn't experience any racism," and blah blah blah. They'll go back and they'll say, "I don't know what these people of colour are talking about in Australia," but this. Once you, like I said, you know, once you come, like you said, once you live here, it's a whole different story.
Yeah. You know? Can you compare Australia and New Zealand when it comes to trans and LGBT rights? Which do you think it's a bit more advanced and which one is a bit more inclusive?
Oh, New Zealand is more inclusive, more advanced, because New Zealand back in, I think it was in the early 90s, their first mayor, transgender mayor, Georgina, first mayor in the whole world. And and I can't remember what part of New Zealand that was for, but she was the first gender mayor in the whole world, first in New Zealand. We had, and prior to her, we actually had another trans politician, Carmen Rue.
Okay.
And she was back in Wellington. And that was like in the 80s, maybe late 80s, or maybe even earlier. Actually, no, it was earlier, probably the 70s. And she was pushing for marriage equality, more rights for brothel owners and sex workers. So New Zealand is really, really advanced. But then they also have their own issues with discrimination.
Yeah.
You know, it's not as big, but it's there. And it affects a lot of people. But yeah, New Zealand is much better than Australia when it comes to... is insane.
The UK is very systemic when it comes to racism. The UK is very... it's very subtle. You don't see it. And, you know, when they're being horrible to you, they're very polite about it. From making fun of your accent, thinking it's a jest. I remember when I first moved here, it was always a jest when people made fun of my accent, where I come from. And then it gradually developed into systemic. I noticed it when I was living in Nigeria. I wasn't thinking about politics, and I never thought that British people can be racist or anything like that. I used to say, oh, that will never happen to me because I'm different. Then when I came to the UK, like most Nigerians always think that as well. Like when I post on my social media and I'm criticizing the Tory party for what they're doing to the country and how evil they are to immigrants and to trans people, I get attacked by Nigerians saying, as a trans person, why are you attacking them instead of you to be more inclusive and understanding of where they are? And I'm like, excuse me, they are privileged fools who have messed up this country and have messed up my life. So I have the right to speak out because what the policies they are making is directly affecting me. So I have to speak about it. You don't live in the UK, with all due respect. I live in the UK, I'm experiencing it. They say he who wears the shoes knows where it hurts. So for them to sit down there and not even experiencing what I'm going through and then thinking that it's not okay for me to speak out about it, it's just ridiculous. So yeah, so when you haven't lived in the UK, you always revere them because they come with a posh accent, and you think that, I'm telling you, people who are horrible and nasty to you will be smelling of petals and posh accent, looking very good, and you will never actually expect them to be like that because they all look like Hugh Grant on television and in movies and with their accent. But actually, it is very subtle and very underground and very professional as well when they're doing it. But I think it's quite not common for most countries around the world.
Yeah. I think you said that you were afraid to come to Australia because of the racism. Honestly, it's nothing. You won't even see it.
Yeah.
I'm more concerned about going to America.
Yes.
Like, I don't even want to go to.
Oh my gosh. America is the worst. Oh my God. It's absolutely crazy. From the guns to it's just mental. And they are so specific about their politics as well. And the division is just rife. Like in the UK as well, we have that division now. We never had that before. But thanks to Brexit, we have a huge, massive gash, like an open wound, bleeding open wound due to that. Everybody hating each other and just attacking each other. And it's just the worst division that you could ever imagine. And it's sad.
Oh, so one day I'm going to come visit the UK.
Yes, please come to the UK. You will love it. As in, like, I would love to show you around Soho, take you to Buckingham Palace and all these strategic places. I think you will love it.
Place that since I was little, like I said to you before, when I was 14.
Yeah.
Was the two places. There was Atlanta.
Yeah.
And the UK. UK was the first one. When I was. I want to go there. Plus, because I love Princess Diana.
Yes.
That's why. Hey, because Princess Diana was from the UK.
Yeah, I think you will love the UK. There are a lot of historical places that you can visit, from the Tower of London to the Tower Bridge to, like I said before, Buckingham Palace, Harrods. So many lovely places. The famous Oxford Street for shopping. There are so many places that you can see, and it's even more beautiful very late at night in the summer, around 3-4 a.m. in the morning. And I have my car roof down, And it's so beautiful to just look up and look at the skyscrapers in the city of London. There's a section of London in general where it's called City of London. That is where the financial hub of London is. And you see all the tall buildings, and it's just so beautiful and very quiet. So I can imagine. Sorry?
I can't say the same thing for Australia. Like, I don't know what to say. Like, okay. Like, I don't know if you, like, cafe.
No, but you have such amazing structures as well. For example, the Opera House in Sydney, the bridge, Sydney Bridge, where you do your fireworks from. I would love to see it. I would love to experience that.
Yeah, it's the Harbour Bridge and the Opera House.
Oh, is it called Harbour? Okay, Harbour Bridge, yeah.
Those two things, but then the Harbour Bridge, you can't even go on there. So they really just had the Opera House.
I wouldn't want to stay in the Australian outbacks, but I would love to see it. But if I'm going to go, I want to go with like a group of 100 people, so that when there are serial killers or whatever, it will not take me, because I watch so many Australian horror movies with crazy things happening in the outbacks.
Well, those places like Darwin, where the rock is, the Uluru Rock is beautiful.
Yes, I've heard of that, yes.
That is just, I mean, the picture.
Yeah.
And just to be, I think that would be my next place to go and visit.
Oh, so you've not been?
Okay. I have to go there first.
Let me even ask you, because is it Uluru Rock that tourists were allowed to climb before to go on top, but recently the Aboriginals were campaigning against it because it is revered and respected? They were like, it's not fair that tourists and people are allowed to climb it. Is it that?
Yes, that one.
Ah, yes, I saw the documentary. It's really beautiful.
Yeah, I don't even know why it was allowed in the first place. That I don't understand. And then the fact that, you know, the First Nations people said no, and then you have a bunch of white people protesting. Like, how dare you?
Yeah.
Like, yeah. No, you respect that. But the fact that these people want to argue, debate, and protest, I'm like, who are you to protest that you want to go climb the front? It's absurd. Like,
it's crazy. Yeah, I saw that in the news, and I was like, why? I saw it in the documentary as well, and I was like, why are they protesting against something that is sacred to these people? Yeah. They own that land. They were there before you. So why do you have the guts to take the liberty to even stand there and challenge them when it is their land?
Yeah, it's their privilege, right?
Yeah. So, all right. So I'm going to love you and leave you. So it's been so lovely to have you on my show. I really hope we can do this again. I hope you can come back and have more conversation with me, because I've totally enjoyed having you here.
Oh, you want to tell the audience the last time we spoke?
We spoke for hours. Oh my God. How many hours? Can you remember? So many hours. We're just talking. How many hours?
It was well over 5, like 6,
I know. We spoke for so long. You can help. You're a girl. Once there is gossip, girl, I enjoy my gossip. I can help it.
The thing is, everybody knows me, knows I do not answer people's calls. So nobody rings me. Nobody ever rings me. Oh. And when we're doing this, my friend rang me. I thought, oh, but he always rings. But no, I never answer anybody's call. So nobody calls me anymore. And then when your number came up, I thought, what is this? I'm just going to answer and see what happens. Because I thought maybe you want to ask me something, or maybe you want to tell me something.
Yeah.
I was thinking 5 minutes.
Yeah. And then we spoke for hours. My God. I had so much fun talking to you then, and even now as well. So I hope we'll continue, and fingers crossed I'm going to see you and meet you one day, because I think it's long overdue when I come to Australia.
Yes.
So,
and it'll probably be next.
Okay, so please, can you make a mention of your social networking sites and how people can reach you?
Yes, thank you. So you can follow me on Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, under Miss Catalina. So it's MISS, and then Catalina is KATALYNA. Follow me, stalk me. Just don't taking any applications.
Fantastic. So thank you so much. I'm gonna leave you and love you, and I hope to talk to you very soon.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you for keeping company. Mwah.
Bye. Mwah.
Bye. So we've come to the end of the show, and I have to say that I have had so much fun talking to all of you. I would like to thank Miss Catalina for joining me today and educating me about Australia, and I want to thank all of you who have joined in the conversation and watched the show. I am grateful for all of you, and I hope I will see you again on Wednesday. Please tune in at 4 p.m. I have to say that I've enjoyed every bit of it, and I hope to see you very soon. Thank you so much. All right, bye-bye. Love you all, and have a blessed week. Oh, and also remember, wear gloves, wear a mask, wash your hands, stay at home, and it definitely does save lives. All right, so see you soon. Bye-bye. Bye.